And I'd like to share a few thoughts with regards to emceeing the show. And of course, we think so much about the music and what's coming through the speakers and why people show up, but there's a whole nother side of putting on a successful show, and that's the MC work. Whether it's a novice concert promoter who's hosting a show at their house, or maybe for a local concert series, or at a community event space, or maybe in front of thousands of people at a Bluegrass festival. MCs can take many different shapes and sizes, and you may think of yourself as someone just putting on a show for your friends, but the way you introduce a band and the artist that you're presenting can make a really big difference with how you set the tone for the day, and also how the performer in turn is able to receive energy and feedback from the audience. So a really good introduction can go a long way towards getting the show started off on the right foot. But more often than not, what I find with novice MCs is walking up to the microphone and getting ready to introduce the show without having prepared anything to say and just kind of winging it. Unless you're a professional broadcaster or you work in the field, maybe you've got the charisma to pull it off, but I think it starts with preparing and getting to know the artist that you're working with. So having a conversation with them before they go on stage about how they'd like to be introduced is a really nice place to start. You also want to think about, in the event that they say, I don't care how we're introduced, whatever you want. Then in that situation, maybe having some notes and some thoughts about the artist, maybe where they're from, a recent album they've put out, maybe a project they're working on, upcoming concerts, anything you'd like to share to help plug a new product that they have or an upcoming event. There's some basic things like knowing how to pronounce the band's name or the artist's name correctly. It's really embarrassing, frankly, if you're about to play a show and the presenter goes, and now presenting Ken and Brad Collidner. Did I get that right? That happens so often, and it's such a pain because, you know, you laugh it off, it's kind of funny, the audience kind of chuckles, but it's sort of embarrassing. And it's in some ways, I even will go as far to say it's kind of disrespectful. You know, you've paid money to see this artist, you've hired them, all the pieces are there, and then the first thing they hear when they walk on stage is their name mispronounced. So just the basics of getting their name pronounced correctly. And you don't need to talk very much when you're on stage. When you're emceeing, you want to be really concise. Nobody came to the show to see you. If I try to only stay on the mic for maybe 30 seconds to a minute when I'm introducing a band, if there are important announcements to make, maybe some things about, you know, where the bathroom is, where the exit is, where the merch table is, whether there's going to be one set or two sets, having all of that stuff written down or in your notes, saying that right at the front, the top end of the show, is really helpful, and then you introduce the band to it. So it's really nice when you're an MC to think about how to craft the list of points that you're planning to talk about in such a way that when you finish that list, you've reached the point at which everybody's hyped and excited to listen to the music. So you talk about kind of the most mundane things first, and you just go through in that order until you get to the point where you can talk about, and now presenting Grammy-winning artist from Pennsylvania, the Del McCoury Band, and you finish with the name of the artist.
Songwriter, activist, Grammy winner with a soft spot for bluegrass. At his core, a master storyteller. His latest record, Jerry Jeff, pays tribute to the late Texas country troubadour, Jerry Jeff Walker. Hey, let's welcome to the Gray Fox stage, Steve Earle and the Dukes.
Well, this band has been around and has a lot of history, a lot of wonderful history. But you know, if I go into it all, it will keep you away from them way too long. Let me just tell you that they have a new album called When I'm Free. When the set is over, be sure you go over and pick it up. But let me just tell the band, when you're away, we miss you. Don't stay away so long. Please welcome Hot Rise.
I started emceeing at the very start of my radio career. So I called it Earn While You Learn, because you just figure it out as you go along. But over the years, I have come to realize that MCs represent different things for different festivals, but you can pretty much categorize it into a few simple categories. The first one is business. Most festivals run on sponsorships of some kind, and it is incumbent on the MC to impart thanks to sponsors, give credit where credit is due. People who support the festival deserve their sponsorship credit. So that's job one. Public safety is a huge part of being an MC, especially at a big festival where you do have medical services, and even smaller festivals where you may not. Just little tips like you get messages that vehicle XYZ, you have your lights on, or please don't use the south entrance today. I mean, you're really the public service announcer too, even though you're also going to bring on the next band. You need to remember that you wear a lot of hats as an MC. You keep the stage going on time. If it's a small festival, you are the stage manager. Wear your watch. Don't leave home without it. I always bring an extra clock for a small festival. I put it right in front of the band and I point to the dial and say, you're going to be done when the big hand is on the 3 or on the 6. I make sure that it's abundantly clear. And I always say, do you want 10 fingers when you have 10 minutes left, or do you want the 2 songs? And I let them choose, and I make sure I'm right at the side stage and I'm there with either the 2 fingers or the 10 fingers to let them know that they have X amount of time left. It's really more housekeeping than you would ever imagine. You're really, although some MCs are great entertainers, I feel that the MC's job is to facilitate everything that goes on stage and behind the stage. If it's a smaller festival, you don't have a stage manager that you're working with or for who takes care of the bands. If you're at a small festival, you better be sure that the next band is ready to come on stage when you announce them. I've certainly had times when they haven't arrived on the grounds yet. They had car trouble, stopped at the border. Lots of things can happen. So keep your eyes and ears open and make sure you know not only what's coming up next, but that it's ready to come up next. So wear your watch, watch your bands, and be in close contact with all your performers. At a big festival like Gray Fox, where we are now, there's a stage manager and lots of staff who do all those things. So it falls to the MC to make a smooth transition between bands, to study up and do your homework before you get here so you know who you're going to announce and what you're going to say about them.
Our next group is a wonderful collective, and when we think of old-time music as a genre of bluegrass, you think of it as a kind of a rooted in the past tradition. But in the next hour, we're all going to learn how the old-time tradition has really shifted a generation and come forward to become the new generation of old-time, new-time music. So in our midst, we have the Wildmans. They are the 2021 Rocky Grass Band winners. We have Fury and Uma Peters, and also Brad Kolodner, each one of them representing their own groups, their own styles, and they're going to put it all together for you in the next little while. So sit back and enjoy. Old Time is in good hands. Give them a hand.
Don't take the steam away from them. They want to introduce their band members. You just introduce the band, and maybe as representing, you know, the label that they record for, you might say. For example, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Bluegrass lovers.
There you
Here at
go.
Gray Fox
Just like
Friday
Brad.
evening.